Hey Ringside crew, welcome to the internationally known Dudes at Ringside podcast. And now here's your host, Joe Panther III.
Hello there, wrestling fans! Welcome to another episode of the internationally known Dudes at Ringside podcast. I am Joe Panther III, and today, Ringside crew, you're in for a treat. I have a gentleman that I had a young lady on a little bit ago, the Dynamite Doll, and when we were talking mid podcast, she mentioned this gentleman, and I knew. Afterwards, he commented. I think you commented in the chat. But let's give a warm Dudes at Ringside welcome to Moondog Manson. Welcome, brother. Welcome. Finally, welcome. You're on the other side.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
Awesome. So, Moondog, like, if my American-based fans, if they're not familiar with you, and why would they not be, introduce yourself.
So I'm the legendary Moondog Manson. You know, I'm based out of Canada, and the primary reason why a lot of Americans don't know about me is because I actually ran into border problems in the year 2000, and I just kind of never bothered. Like, I was kind of scared, didn't have any interest to try to cross the border after that. So I just kind of became like a local legend up here on the north side of the border. So I don't know, I broke in about 27 years ago, just outside of Vancouver, British Columbia. And I was trained by a gentleman by the name of Gorgeous Michelle Starr. And Gorgeous Michelle Starr was the promoter of Extreme Canadian Championship Wrestling. And I got trained by him. Took me approximately about 3 months, but I debuted in, like, I think it was October 4th. Yeah, I think it was like October 4th, 1997 is when I debuted. But yeah, that's the gist. That's where I came from. But I've been like a local legend. I had some bad experiences when I first broke in. I didn't really see the value of going places, so I kind of held myself back for the most part. I didn't, I learned about, what the WWE was all about, and I didn't like how Vince McMahon did business. So I kind of lost interest of being a WWE star. And so I was kind of focusing on getting over to Asia or maybe wrestle in Japan, but then I had some bad experiences trying to get over there too. And then I just kind of gave up. So I've been like floating around in the rings up here in Canada. And a lot of people know me up here, but, I'm at the point now where I'm, the age of, I actually just turned 48 today. I've quit my day job about 5 months ago, and I just plan on doing this full time for the rest of my life.
Wow. So let's go back to when you first stepped foot in the training facility. Like, did you like, when you first sat down and the trainer started talking to you, did you think this was for you? Did you know? Like, did you have that moment in your brain saying, "Oh, this is for me," or you were like, "Oof, I don't know"?
So I always knew I was going to be a professional wrestler because that's all I ever wanted to do. That and be a professional football player in the Canadian Football League. So when I was a teenager, I mean, I obviously watched a lot of wrestling, but I was actively playing community league football. And the only reason I stopped playing football and abandoned the dream was, I think one year, because I played for the East Van Trojans, which East Vancouver, that's pretty much like one of the toughest areas in Canada. And, so I played for the community league that had all the troubled kids on it. Like, for instance, one year there was one guy had already been in juvenile detention for 3 years for, like, killing another gang member. right?
Wow.
So like I grew up around a lot of tough guys, but I got out of playing football because there just wasn't a team because we didn't have the money one year to run it, and I just never went back to football. So I had to wait until I was about 21 to get into professional wrestling. But I kind of lucked out because I didn't know about any of the shows here. I just knew about the stuff that was on TV. So it would have been just the WWE and whatever indie shows were going on here locally. I had no idea about because the internet wasn't really that advanced at the time.
Yep.
So pretty much I walked into my local video store and I was the guy that rented all the wrestling videos there like religiously. And the guy that was behind the counter, he says, buddy, these guys came in here and asked me to hang this poster up on the wall, but I think it'd probably be better if I just give it to you. So I got this poster and I started attending the ECCW shows, and I was having a lot of fun watching the shows. And I always wanted to be a wrestler because when I was growing up, I got bullied quite a bit. And the thing is, I always looked up the big, strong figures as an inspiration. So it's like Mr. T on the A Team. B.A. Baracus. I really loved him. Obviously back in the day, Hulk Hogan. Because I'm 48, Hulk Hogan would have been like the center of my universe for a while. So I always wanted to be big and strong, and I figured the best way to do it is become a professional wrestler. So it probably took about a year of me watching shows, and I found out that they had a wrestling school. And back in those days, you couldn't really shoot off an email. All you could really do is call or like send an actual letter through the mail. So I sent a letter saying I wanted to train and never heard back. And then I waited and waited, and then I called their hotline, which wasn't an active phone line. You just called in. There was like recorded voice messages on like line 1, 2, or 3. And I left a message at the training school and I never heard back. And so I was kind of at the point where I was kind of getting disgruntled, and I thought, I don't know what's up with this, but because I'm a little aggressive at times, the next show I was at, I kind of waited around, and the guy that I thought was the promoter, he was one of the promoters, Terry Joe Silverspoon. I saw him and I walked up to him at the end of the show, and I was actually kind of, I guess, agitated, and I just looked at him and go like, are you going to train me or what? And then we started talking, right? And then he was like, then he let me know, he apologized. He said that they had just, I think they had canceled their PO box, so they never got the letter.
Oh no!
And then the voicemail, I don't know. I think he just, I don't know. He probably forgot to reply to it, or he thought somebody did, or somebody passed the message along, and I never got a call back. So he told me to stick around, and they had the guy who was doing the training was going to come and talk to me. So I waited and waited and waited, and out comes gorgeous Michelle Starr from the back area where they were changing, and he starts talking to me, and so he like pretty much that's how I got into the business. I always wanted to be a wrestler, and it was a little rough trying to get in, but once I finally got the training, everything started taking off for me from there.
So you do a lot of death match and like stuff like that, hence the your barbed wire stick, like. Is that like your original like thought when you wanted to be a wrestler, or did you have this one day idea, I want to do a back like the death match scene?
So this is the funny thing about it. I actually don't like the death matches so much. I consider myself a 1980s hardcore wrestler.
Okay.
I have a hell of a story I'll tell you a little later about me and Honky Tonk Man doing a hardcore match. But I never really, the funniest thing is my first match ever was a battle royal, and it was a weapons battle royal. And, back in those days, it wasn't anything special. There might have been like a computer keyboard and something else. So like the first thing that I ever got hit with in the ring was a toaster in the head. And I remember thinking to myself inside my brain, I'm going, what the fuck did I just get myself into? Because it sucked. And after that, I was wrestling regular wrestling matches. I wasn't doing any weapons or anything. I was a tag team wrestler. We were called the New Moondogs. It was Moondog Manson, Moondog Chops, and I was doing regular matches. And I was really good at them. And when I was on the road, because my tag team partner couldn't go on the road, I was a singles wrestler. But when I was in town doing the big shows, I was a tag team wrestler. And it was I would say it was probably about a year, maybe a year and a half into wrestling, where I had an opportunity to fill in for a tag team. There was a guy named Dr. Luther. He's on AEW right now. He's, I think, whatever that girl's name is it Tony Storm or whatever?
Oh, yeah,
He's the Butler guy. Yeah, he's the Butler guy, right?
yeah.
So what happened was him and his tag team partner uh, couldn't. They were scheduled to be in a. I think it might have been a three-way tag team match in a cage with barbed wire.
Ooh.
And they ended up not being on the show because of some incident that happened at a previous show. And basically, I got put into the match. Me and my tag team partner got put in the match to fill in for him. And yeah, like after that, I did really well at it. You know, it was the first time I ever bled. And then all of a sudden, they started sticking me in these matches left, right, and center. And I slowly forgot how to wrestle.
Oh,
Right,
no.
just doing all hardcore matches. You know, because I excelled at it. I was really good at it. And people were paying to see me do hardcore matches, and I was just getting a huge following. You know, we were like ECWs in the States at the time, and we were like the Canadian version of it. So like I was like leading in the division, you know. But yeah, like I never thought I was gonna do it. I don't know, like sometimes I don't really regret becoming a hardcore wrestler, but I definitely know that if I didn't, I don't know. I would have still been as successful as I am now, but I would have been something vastly different. Like I was, back in the day, I was actually, in the ring doing 45-minute matches, and working all the old timers, and they just loved me because everything was called on the fly, and it's like, it was really easy to work me. Because I got a brain for the business, I got a brain for being in the ring, and I know how to work the crowd properly. But I just kind of shifted gears, and I'm doing the hardcore stuff, and I'm just doing it 80s style because, like in my opinion, one of the first hardcore matches was probably that Tupelo, Mississippi concession stand brawl that like Honky Tonk Man was in, and Jerry Lawler. Yeah, like that was probably the start of the kind of the hardcore wrestling I do. So I'm more of like a brawler style hardcore. But the way I do it, it's better than most of the all the death style matches because they, like, in my opinion, they go overboard. They just they overstimulate the crowd, and it just you can't do that over and over again and like bring in the fans. You're gonna get a core amount of fans, but for the most part, a lot of people get turned off from all that violence, and it's just too much. So the way I do it's better. I've honestly had a 45-minute hardcore match before.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was like, that was the thing, is when they was probably, I think in 1998 they were going to crown the first ECCW hardcore champion ever, and what they did is they had a 2-day tournament, but they had it in different towns on Vancouver Island, and the winner from each night was going to face each other at the legendary Eagles Hall, New Westminster, British Columbia, on their main show. And the first night of matches, I think it was the ladies' choice one, and then the second night of hardcore matches I won. So it was like I did 3 hardcore matches in one night. And basically the third match was the main event. We did 45 minutes, me and a guy named Juggernaut, and the crowd was into it the whole match. And it was such a phenomenal match that, like, I'm at the bar after the show, and there was like this indigenous guy came up to me, and he's like, he wasn't even at the show. He just says, "I heard about your match. I heard how good it was." And then he gave me like a brand new Zippo lighter that had a totem pole on it. It was like a $45 lighter he never used before, and he gifted to me as a present in the bar. So that's the thing, is like I know I basically transitioned that wrestling skill set I had, and I pushed it into the hardcore stuff. So I've been doing a very unique style of hardcore for quite a while, and when I'm on the shows, it's not death match. A lot of, like, I see the guys trying to do that, and they're just, in my opinion, they're just hurting themselves for no reason. But the way I wrestle, the fans like it. It's family friendly, it's hard hitting, and as much blood as there is.
Yeah. So I also noticed you have like a barbed wire bat. Did did you know that you like how long did it take to get the bat? Did you get it from like a sporting goods store, or did you find it somewhere? Like how did you come up with it?
So that technically the second barbed wire bat I've had. The first one I had nothing to do with. ECCW just happened to have it, and I think it got used in a match one time. If I'm thinking about it correctly, there was a old school wrestler, Dirty Dan Denton, that I was wrestling hardcore matches with, and I think they made it for him. So he had it, and then when he left and went back to California, I started carrying it. But it got stolen like pretty early on. I think I only had it for like 3-4 months, and I wasn't bringing it home. I was leaving it at the show, like with the promotion. But like a fan swiped it one night, and then I was kind of like, oh, it was for some reason it kind of felt naked without the barbed wire bat. So yeah, I went to the sporting goods store, bought a new bat. Went to because we had done some barbed wire matches, the promotion of barbed wire. So I went, brought the bat. One of the guys, wired it up for me. So I had the original set of barbed wire on that bat for probably about 2 years, and then I thought I'd redo the bat because I wanted to look a little bit different than the typical barbed wire bats out there. So when I went and redid it, honestly, the barbed wire that's on it right now has probably been sitting on that bat for about 23 years.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So like that's the thing is people come out with bats and that it's like it's been my gimmick pretty much my whole career. So yeah, and it's funny because I was just out in Alberta wrestling in the summertime, and like everybody's like, they were like all the fans were impressed by it, and they were like, they hadn't seen me wrestling with the bat before because I've been in British Columbia most of my time, right? But they were like comparing it to the Walking Dead. They were nicknamed it Lucille.
No,
But yeah, that bat's got a lot of history. Man. It's been in the business for more time than I think majority of the wrestlers have.
How do you clean that bat? I know it's barbed wire. It'll cut your hands. You have to like hose it get the hose from the outside and just leave it on the grass and just hose it off and pray to God you don't accidentally like catch your leg or your shoe.
Well, that's the thing is, you know what? I keep it wrapped up all the time. So I do put like hydrogen peroxide and rubbing alcohol on that. I'll put it, on it sometimes depending what I got. To try to keep it clean. But that's it, man. As long as you take care of your wounds, man. Like nobody's got infected by it yet. But yeah, it was just that's the thing is I'm a pretty smart guy, so I thought I was gonna have to change the barbed wire quite a bit, but I've actually managed not just by keeping it clean.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, do you have to put like stuff on it to keep it sanitary, the barbed wire and stuff like that?
Yeah. Well, the only thing you got to really make sure is sanitary is the barbs. And this is the funny thing is a lot of wrestlers they go and like take the barbs and they'll like take pliers and they bend them down or whatever, make it safe. But not me. I just left mine all sticking out.
Like, man, if you touch it, you get hurt. It's wrestling.
Oh yeah, like I got hit in the head with it one time, and it's like the blood just started coming down my head right away.
Oof. So you work with the Dynamite Doll, as she was on. If you watched it, what does it feel like to have a manager like the Dynamite Doll in your corner?
You know what? I'm gonna tell you something funny. I never thought in a million years that I needed a manager, and I wasn't looking for a manager, but I happened to meet Dynamite Doll one time at Canadian Apex Wrestling Show. It was probably, I don't know, probably about a year ago around now. And anyways, I ended up making sure she got back to her hotel okay. And we kind of just became friends after that. And I don't know, it's hard to remember the timeline, but I think she was kind of looking to branch out, maybe find somebody new to manage. And I think she was wanting to probably work in BC a little bit more. So she sent me a message asking me if I was looking for a manager, and I had to tell her I was going to get back to her on that because I had to sit there and think about it for a little bit. And basically what I do is my thinking is I kind of go and think about it and I start daydreaming. And it's like trying to run the scenarios in my head, see if I can, manifest something special. And like the more I worked on it in my head, the more I was kind of like, I think I can make this work. So I agreed to work with her, right? And we started talking quite a bit, and I think both of us were being smart about it. I think we started talking behind the scenes, and we were trying to get to know each other better. Because honestly, the best way when you're working with somebody is best if you really know them well. Because you're more invested in your team that way. So when I was getting to know her, I actually ended up going out to Alberta, and I was only planning on going out there for one night, but the one night turned into two because I got put on a show, and then I got to put on a show the second day, and then I don't know what happened. But next thing you know, I was like there for 6 weeks wrestling. But during the course of 6 weeks, we still hadn't worked together, and she was like managing her cousin Tommy Billington, and I was, like I think what was happening, we're both kind of keeping our distance, like trying to watch each other's matches to make sure it was the right fit. Because I know I'm not the guy. I'm not going to just agree to something and jump in and try to make it work. Like I want to be invested. Like I want to be like emotionally invested. Like this is in my best interest to make it work. So we were trying our best to watch each other's matches, and like it was, I don't know, we're having a hard time because like a lot of times like the way where the entrance was, you couldn't really see the ring, or and if there was a camera in the back, like it was like so choppy and buffering that you couldn't actually watch the matches. So it wasn't until probably I was watching her manage Tommy Billington and Mo Jabari in Calgary, Alberta, and I finally got to watch her fully work. And she managed to finally get to see me fully work. And it was after that we both decided, yeah, this is the right thing to do, because I could see the energy she had. And as much as I love those two kids, they just, Tommy wasn't using his cousin properly, and Mo, they were having a really good match in the ring, but they weren't utilizing her on the outside. So they're basically instead of utilizing her skill set to the max, they were kind of leaving her off to her own device, and she was pretty much just isolated as a cheer squad on the outside of the ring. And I knew in the back of my head, I'm going like, man, I would have had her involved in this and that, and I would have played to her, and. So then when she watched my matches, I honestly didn't do anything. I took the guy and we just brawled, went into there was like a beer stand, lots of punching and choking. There wasn't much else other than that, but the crowd was actually into it quite a bit. It was probably the best match on the show. Um, and it was at that point that we both decided that, what, we liked what each other was doing, and we were going to actually pull the trigger on this. So it was on my last night before I left town, or it was second to last night before I left town. There was a Wild Rose was running a show in a bar on a Tuesday night, and we decided to pull the trigger then. So I got her to manage me, and it was a 3-way hardcore match, and it's like we had a lot of chemistry right off the get go. So I was like super impressed with her. She's got a mind for the business. Most people don't know anything about genetics and that, but she's technically, because she's 50% Dynamite Kid's daughter, like everything that Dynamite Kid had, learned and absorbed into his body leading up to the point where she was conceived got passed on to her genetically. So, you know what? Like I'm not dumb. I know, like when I'm out there working the ring with her, like I'm working out there working with Dynamite's daughter, and I got that skill set up to that point. So, and I see it in her. I don't know if anybody else sees it, but I see it in her, and it's like, she's an amazing human being, one of the kindest women I ever met. And it's like when we go out there, it doesn't take much. It's like we can kind of read each other really well, and it's like we've been doing a phenomenal job with it so far.
Yeah, like it's so cool that like to be like under someone like her. But you were mentioning before that you wanted to talk about a match you did against the Honky Tonk Man.
Oh yeah,
going to the old school. I really want to hear this story. I know my fans want to hear it. Let's go.
I've also wrestled Sheepherder Luke before. I'll tell you that one too.
Ooh, let's go into the Honky Tonk one first.
Yeah,
because that's old school, and I'm Mr. Old School. I got to hear this story.
Yeah. So back when I first started wrestling, Honky Tonk Man was he was being booked on the indies quite frequently. He was really busy on the indie scene, but he was doing what I call 5-minute special matches. It would be like 3 minutes of intro and then like a 2-minute match with a shake, rattle, roll, right? and he was pretty much doing it everywhere. But for some reason, and I was doing the hardcore matches at this point, so like there was at no point was I going to be wrestling him. But for some reason, there was a tour booked in the Okanagan in British Columbia, and the first night I had a hardcore match. The second night I had might have been a chain match, and then the next night was supposed to be Honky Tonk Man. Now, I'm not going to lie. I saw the booking and I'm thinking, like, this has got to be a joke. I'm going to get there. I'm not going to be wrestling him. Like, I can't wrestle Honky Tonk Man. I don't know what I'm doing. I can't wrestle with that guy. He's a legend, right? And I'm thinking, it's like Honky Tonk Man must be thinking this is a rib on him being put in the ring with this fat kid that does hardcore, right? And because I've always been kind of hard on myself. I never really thought I had the skills. So basically what happened was the first night I wrestled this guy, Chance Beckett, who was a phenomenal wrestler back in the day, who unfortunately started having mental health problems and had to retire from the business. But we did a match and it was hardcore, and basically he was bleeding so heavy he needed 12 stitches to close his head.
Oof.
And I'm thinking it's like I looked like I murdered the guy. And then the next day, there was a 12 p.m. radio interview at a pub on Okanagan Lake. And they sent me and the Honky Tonk Man down to do it because I don't know if I had the semi-main event and he had the main event or whatever the deal was. Anyways, we were two of the featured matches, and they had us on the radio, and Honky Tonk Man did his thing. And then when they put me on, I basically told them that I was going to take the lady's choice, and I was going to wrap my chain around his neck, and I was going to throw him over the top rope, and I was going to hang him to death.
Oh.
And then when I went and did my match, I literally did that for the finish.
Oh.
And I got disqualified. And I didn't think much about it. But then the next day, I'm at the Vernon venue, and Honky Tonk Man walks up to me and says, "Kid, I really like that thing where you gave away your finish on the radio yesterday." And, it's like, "I know you got that dog collar chain, but I don't want to put it around my neck. So maybe we can put it around our wrists. We could do chain match. And, I know you got that barbed wire bat. It's like, I don't want to get hit with the barbed wire bat, but, like I can hit you with the barbed wire bat. So let's make it a hardcore match. We'll do a hardcore chain match." Right? So now, it's like all my knowledge of Honky Tonk Man at this point is 5-minute specials. And when I worked him, we probably put 15 minutes in, and the match was so good, and we were both having such a great time that at one point, I remember being whipped into the turnbuckle, and he told me to move, and I moved, and next thing you know, I turned around, and that motherfucker was upside down on the turnbuckle, and I don't think he'd done it in 10 years at that point, right?
Oh no.
And it was a really good match. At that point, it was potentially one of the best matches I ever had, because the Honky Tonk Man was in it.
Yeah.
And it was like a legendary match in that venue. And anybody saw it, there's 200 fans there, and they got a treat. So so that was the thing, is like I got to have a match like that with him. And then when I wrestled, it was probably about 10 years ago, I was on a show versus Bushwhacker Luke, and he had known me from way back in the day, and he's a really intelligent man. Like both him and Honky are really smart, but Bushwhacker Luke, he's like next level, because I don't think he drinks. He's probably never done any drugs, and his brain is so crisp that he remembers all these details from everything, and it's like going back 50 years. And when he was like, "Kid, I'm gonna wrestle the sheep herder tonight," I was like, it's like I got all these legends like wanting to do hardcore matches with me. So we're in a bar, and it was actually a really bad turnout. The promoter didn't do as good of a job, and it was in December, and there was literally 8 people inside the nightclub to watch the match. And the thing is, I stayed positive. Luke stayed positive. Luke got paid, so it didn't matter to him. And we're both showmen. It didn't matter. There was only 8 people in the crowd. The best part about it all is the bar was owned by a friend of mine who had been coming out to the wrestling like back in the days, like when I was Honky Tonk Man. And he was always helping out. It was his nightclub. So it's like, you know what? I'm getting to perform for my friend against a legend. So it was like a little tiny show. But, like same thing, man. Me and Luke went out and did 15 minutes of hardcore wrestling. And it was actually amazing, because I was hitting him pretty hard. And I remember hearing him go, "Hit me harder, kid. Hit me harder."
Oh, my
And
God.
at one point, I actually broke a broom handle right over his head. I hit him so hard. Yeah.
Oh.
But it was great. Like it was great. It was like, it was like an awesome. So like I've had actually a lot of like really cool matches. And it's been funny stories. Like even Gangrel, like they were brand Gangrel in up here for All Star Wrestling pretty religiously for about a year and a half. And then they brought me into All Star Wrestling to work them in a program, and I think we did like 4 matches, and we were doing it old school, right? Like all the new guys now, they go out to out to eat food afterwards together, or they go to the bar together. Everybody's like faces and heels are hanging out. But even though they were doing that at the end of these shows, me and Gangrel were sitting at opposite ends of the bar, and we weren't talking to each other. And we were some of the marks. We were like telling the marks to say nasty things back and forth to each other, trying to get the marks involved, right? But we went old school, and the blow off match was a cage match. And it was kind of funny because I was getting text messages probably about an hour before the show, and I'm supposed to be in the main event doing a cage match, and I'm getting messages from Kevin Jeffries, who was like an old school. He was an old school wrestler, but he was also a WWF referee. Like he's got from way back in the day. Like he's got all these photos of him. I think in Madison Square Garden with like guys like Andre the Giant and Hulk Hogan, like in the ring. Yeah. So, but he's sending me text messages like telling me, he's like, you're on first, and I'm thinking he's ribbing me, right? Because like, why would I be on first? Because I'm wrestling Gangrel in a cage, right? That was advertised as the main event. So I didn't think much of it, and I lived 10 minutes from the venue, so I wasn't planning on showing up that early. So I got to the building probably about, I don't know, I'd say about maybe 25 minutes before the show started. And like Kevin comes out and says, "Where the fuck you been? Like, I've been trying to get you down here." Like, and then I found out the reason why is because they put the cage up, and they never used that cage. They just bought it from somebody on the Vancouver Island, and they put it up, and it basically, there was a problem with the cage, and they realized if they took it down, their likelihood of them to be able to put it back up was very low. So they made the decision to change the card around and put the cage match as the opening match of the show, and then have intermission after the opening match, and then have the rest of the card go to the main event, which was the semi-main event turned into the main event. Oh. And I was really worried about it. Yeah, I was actually super worried about it, because I'm thinking, I was like, fuck, we're gonna tear the house down. And how are they going to follow that up? And I was actually shocked. Everybody did a good job, including the two girls. I think it was two girls that did the semi-main event. They actually pulled it off. They pulled it off, and it's like we had the opening match. We tore the roof off the building. The fans were super happy, and then they got to do the rest of the show. And it was almost like the fans got a 2-for-1 show. And yeah, so but that was the thing. It's like, like I had that experience too with Gangrel. So I've been around for quite a while. I've worked a lot of really tough guys like Maniac Matt Bourne, and yeah. So but that's the thing, is I've been doing this for quite a while. I just been hiding up in Canada, so the Americans don't know about me so much.
Now they know you because I'm from the States, so they're gonna be like, people are like, who is this guy? And be like,
yeah,
Google.
Yeah. So like a lot of people, they aspire to be on like TV, right? And I look at the stuff on the TV, and I honestly think most of it's the drizzling shits.
Yeah.
Most of the guys on TV, not knocking their talents, they're doing some phenomenal things. They're really athletic. A lot of them look great. But basically what's happening is they're making matches made for TV, and it's all TV angles, and it's not the old school stuff with the psychology. And that's what I got trained on. Most of us grew up on watching wrestling hit psychology. And that's what I'm a firm believer. It's like psychology is the number one thing in entertainment.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
Like when it comes to like wrestling, do you see yourself still in the business in like 5 years?
So I'm gonna let you know a secret. I mean, I just turned 48 today, right? And I've been doing this, for 27 years. And probably about 5 years ago, I decided I was gonna lose weight, because I used to be like close to 400 pounds. So when I lost weight, it took me a while, but I started feeling better and better and better. And then my brain started to wake up, and like, I'm actually at the point now where at the age of 48, I'm flipping through the ring better than I ever have. And my whole goal is to try to wrestle till I'm 75.
Wow, 75. God
Yeah.
bless you, man.
Yeah, because I'm seeing guys on I'm seeing clips on the internet, guys doing matches, and they've been doing them. You know, one guy, I forget what his name is. I think he's over in the UK. He's been doing them. He's been pulling. He's like 67 or 76 right now, and he looks phenomenal. He's got a phenomenal build. And the thing is, I know enough about health and nutrition that majority of the food at the grocery stores isn't really healthy. It's like full of chemicals, like preservatives and that. And when it goes in your body, it doesn't help your body out at all. So I've been like actually eating super clean. Going down to basic food items. Like for dinner, I had just basically ground beef with some mushrooms in it.
Mm.
I'm trying to eat basic, but it's like my body feels so much better eating basic. It tastes plain, but but I feel better, right? So I might not be enjoying my dinner as much as I used to, but I'm enjoying every moment outside of my dinner.
And also, my mom has a garden. You can grow a small garden, and everything that my mom grows, it comes from the garden. And pretty much,
Absolutely,
you're
yeah,
eating whatever grows in the garden, and it's
right.
safer.
And that's the way everybody should do it because we lost that as a species. We gotten all these easy things handed to us now, and we're relying on businesses to feed us, and those businesses are just trying to maximize profits, and they don't care about our health at the end of the day. And there's not enough regulation to keep the food clean. So, like, literally, everybody should be growing their own food, and if you eat meat, you should be finding a butcher that's linked to a ranch, or a butcher that is a ranch, or whatever it is, and trying to get the food as close to the source as possible and make sure the source is good. But yeah, my goal right now is to wrestle till I'm 75, and with Bronwyn on my side, like my goal is to try to get her doing it as long as possible too. So man, you never know. You might be seeing her and I in 30 years still performing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
If my fans want to follow you on social media, Moondog, how can they find you?
So I'm on Instagram, Moondog 604. 604 is like the area code for British Columbia. And I'm on probably Facebook. You can find me as Moondog Manson on Facebook. But yeah, those are the ones. I don't usually use Twitter too much anymore. Yeah, I just during COVID there was too much political stuff on both sides, and I just kind of like just not my cup of tea anymore.
A lot of people were being not so nice toward me because the separation with me and my former guy I worked with. So I was like, you know what? I'll stick to Instagram and Facebook.
Yeah, yeah. In my opinion, it's the best thing to do, and like yeah, Twitter was like really toxic to me, so I stopped using it.
Mm. If my fans want to pick up any Moondog merch, do you have any like stickers or like anything else that my fans want to pick up?
I'm in the process of getting some stuff done, but I don't have anything at the moment. I got some shirts designed. I just haven't got them printed yet. The main reason why was back in the day I started trying to do merch, but then the promotion was like putting their own merch and me out, and then I was like, I just didn't see the point in it, like having their merch out, my merch out, and for the most part, it was kind of wrestling just locally, anyways.
Mm,
So I kind of get disgruntled easy when things don't go my way.
same.
Yeah,
Me
yeah. So,
too.
yeah, because
Hey,
I didn't know it most of my life. Always telling everybody I was like crazy, right? But don't worry about it. I'm the good kind of crazy. But like, it's thank God to my ex-wife. She kind of told me she thought I had Asperger's syndrome, and then I started looking into it, and took me probably about 2-3 weeks to accept it. But it was kind of like, yeah,
it's
something.
like this. Now we're bonded with the wrestling world. I get disgruntled really easily with wrestling. Wrestler will be
Yeah,
like, "Yeah, let's do a podcast together," and then like a few days later, I'm like, "Okay." I'm like, "Cool." That day I go, "Yeah, cool. I'll do the podcast with you." I wait a week to see if it's a real deal,
yeah,
and I look, and the timestamp is that date, and I go, "Are we still good?" And I don't hear anything. So I'm like, I
yeah,
wait a few more days, and then I'm like, yeah, this person either was drunk when they sent me this message, or they just didn't weren't interested.
yeah.
Why'd you open the message if you didn't want to say anything?
Totally. That's the thing. It'd be better just to ghost you.
That's what I've had that
Yeah,
too. I've
yeah,
had wrestlers that were all gung ho and made a poster or in May. Well, that last year I had a male wrestler from Pennsylvania. That's all I'm gonna say is he gave me a date. We were set to go live. It was supposed to be a rivalry match, a interview, and that show was that Saturday. And the one wrestler had car trouble, so he couldn't do it. And I was like, fine. The other wrestler didn't even message me. And I
Yeah,
got
there's a lot of
tell
fake.
you,
There's a lot of flaky guys in the wrestling business.
he didn't even look me in the face.
Yeah,
I didn't even gave him a sticker. He gave me the total cold shoulder. He didn't even look me in the eyes when he saw
yeah,
me.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm a real authentic dude. I've been doing this a long time, and that's why the fans like me so much. When they're in the ring, they see an authentic person in front of them.
Yeah, I can tell.
Yeah,
I can tell you're very authentic, and I'm so glad that the Dynamite Doll like connected us to do this awesome interview. Before we go, Moondog, if there
no,
was any,
before you, I gotta tell you a story real quick. I
wait,
gotta
wait,
tell
wait,
you
go,
something
here we go,
cool.
here we go, good one.
I gotta tell you. So, um, you know what the Dynamite Doll did for me recently?
No, what's that?
So she's decided, because we're doing this thing called the Manson family, right?
Yeah,
She, I think I cracked a joke one day there or something. Anyways, you know how she's got those beautiful blue eyes and they look like doll eyes?
yeah,
Yeah, so I like calling her doll eyes, right? Um, and then, doll eyes Manson doesn't really have a ring to it. But anyway, she was kind of thinking about it one time, and out of nowhere, she decided she was gonna, for the part of the Manson family, she's gonna change her name to Dolly Manson.
Dolly Manson. That
Yeah,
does have
Dolly
the ring.
Manson. Pretty amazing, eh?
Oh my gosh, no, that means that if when she changes her Instagram ad, it may
Oh
take
no, she's
away
not gonna
from.
change it. You can still follow her. We're thinking about rolling some like a Manson family social media account for everybody to follow.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that'd be cool. Like a group, like a group page,
yeah,
like tag teams have a group page and stuff like that. Yeah, that'd be
yeah,
cool.
yeah. Because we're
Definitely
not
be
gonna
cool.
hide the fact that she's Dynamite Kid's daughter, and like it's like to me, it's very important that she gets to keep her name. But there's no reason why inside the Manson family she can't have a nickname Dolly Manson.
Yeah, that name rolls off your tongue like
Yeah,
Dolly.
I don't know if you've seen, but she put a video on her Instagram not too long ago with the name change on there. You should probably check it out if you haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, I gotta check that out when we're done. I
Yeah,
gotta check it out. I didn't see it because I try not to go back on so many people's pages after I go on the podcast.
yeah,
I'll let it simmer for a while. You know what I mean? And then I'll go say hey or give them a like you're doing great job far
yeah,
away, and then I walk
yeah,
away.
yeah. You go check it out, and then what I'll do is I'll make sure at some point, I don't know, I can't tell you when, but at some point, both of us will jump on your podcast and you can interview us both.
Yeah, that's what I've been dying to do. I want to have you guys on together because I know she's part of your stable and she's part of your wrestling career. So why not have a manager and a wrestler together? You know?
I want to say she's part of my stable, right? But to
Yeah.
be honest, me and her are the stable, and anybody that comes in to the stable is going to be underneath us
Mm,
because she's you know what? The thing is, she's got a mind for the business, but she's actually a really intelligent woman. And the thing is, part of the thing is now that I know I got Asperger's, I also have ADHD, right? So what happens is I got the autistic type brain, and I have the ADHD, so it speeds it up even faster,
hmm
which is kind of really cool. But something else that I wasn't really aware of until somewhat recently in the past few years is that I think I have a really, really, really high IQ. Which shouldn't have been a shocker because I remember when I don't know, when I first needed a website built, my brother was doing it for me. And like this, we're talking like 25-ish years ago. Nobody had .com names, right? Everybody had like GeoCity websites. And like you had to be a big business for anybody to want to buy a .com. But I might have been one of the first wrestlers. It was either me or Chris Hero, and I'm not going to say I was the first, and I can't tell you Chris was the first, but it was right around the exact same time. Me and Chris Hero both had a .com. So, but back in those days, man, there were search engines, but they were like nobody really. I don't even think anybody knew how to get to them if they were, like there would have been like Netscape. So basically, everybody had link pages, and you'd be like emailing, like, "Hey, you want to exchange links?" So, and then everybody would go to links pages on a website and like find new websites. So that's how people were stumbling across. So what happened was people knew about me everywhere. Like I had fans all over the world because the internet was like somewhat new. And basically, unless you had a website up and there was link pages, like people all over the world were finding me. So basically, my brother was doing my website for me, and I just, like my vision in my head, I kept telling him, and he was doing okay. Thinking, I'm just gonna. If my brother learned how to do this on his own, I could figure out how to do this on my own too. So I started, toying around with websites, and it's like I started getting good at it and on my own website, and it was so good that it was actually Dr. Luther's webmaster at the time was doing his website. Actually asked me to redesign Dr. Luther's website. So as my first client, I rebuilt Dr. Luther's website, and a few years later, I taught myself how to be a programmer. And the thing is, I how I learned how to program is like one weekend I just decided, I'm going to sit down and build myself a social media platform. So I built myself a social media platform. It was just basic. It had forums in there. It had photo galleries and private messages. Just nice and simple and basic. But I actually did a decent job, pounded it out over the course of a weekend. I was only aiming to have it locally, like in the 604 area code.
Yeah.
And like I think within the first 24 hours, I had 100 people join.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So so like I was actually like gearing up, like with all the technology I knew. Back in the day. Things started to change after a while, and like I kind of lost focus on, like, lost interest on the internet. I was Because what was happening is, how like Twitter became toxic, right?
Yeah.
Like even my own social media platform, when it started getting popular, and that's the problem when things get popular, like all the bad people start wanting to be part of it, right? So I went from having this nice social media platform to being irritated with it. It's like, I got to moderate this. I need moderators. It's like, oh my god.
Ooh. We will catch you in the next.